With X-Men Days of Future Past still months away, director Bryan Singer dropped a mutant bomb on us with word that another X-Men movie is already in the works, X-Men Apocalypse. So what, and more specifically who, is Apocalypse? As always, we've got spoilers from the comics here. Who is Apocalypse?
I want to hear the cries of the future!
Even though he's one of the most notorious villains in the X-Men pantheon, Apocalypse's first appearance didn't actually come until 1986 in X-Factor number 5. Created by Louise Simonson and Jackson Guice, with an assist by Walt Simonson, Apocalypse was initially designed to be a foe worthy of X-Factor, the team that back then consisted of the original 5 X-Men. The villain was quickly established as being all about Darwinism, or at least a twisted and extreme version of it. Only the strongest of the strong should survive in Apocalypse's view, whether you're a human or a mutant. Commanding a quartet of mutants called the Four Horsemen, because biblical theatricality is not lost on this guy, Apocalypse's confrontations with X-Factor would soon expand to include the X-Men as well. He also developed a habit of recruiting former X-Men to his unholy team, including the Angel, Gambit, and of course even Wolverine. But, as is often the case in comics, it turns out that Apocalypse had been lurking in the shadows for many years prior to his X-Factor introduction. For millennia, in fact. Apocalypse was actually the first mutant ever born in ancient Egypt around 3000 BC, where he was called En-Sabah-Nur. Physically and mentally superior to those around him, and remarkably long-lived, the mutant would spend lifetimes traveling the world, posing as various gods to different ancient civilizations, and inciting war among them all. Always testing, judging, and bringing destruction as he worked towards his ultimate goal of mutant superiority. Thanks to alien technology he discovered that had been left behind by the ancient cosmic beings, the Celestials, Apocalypse augmented his vast mutant powers, which among other things included shapeshifting, enormous strength, teleportation, telepathy, technopathy, and general badass mother-pathy. Apocalypse used his alien tech to enter periods of suspended animation over the centuries. Awakening at one point in 19th century England, he encountered a scientist that he would help transform into another future X-Men villain, Mr. Sinister. And he also had run-ins with some other familiar faces at times, like Thor and, yep, even Dracula. It was the arrival of the time-traveling X-Man Cable in the quote-unquote present time of the X-Men world that would rouse Apocalypse once again, leading to his run-ins with X-Factor. In true comic book fashion, Cable turned out to be the son of Cyclops and kinda sorta Jean Grey. Well, Jean Grey's evil clone anyway. Also, he was raised in the future because, you know, and his birth was a big setup by Mr. Sinister, who planned on someday using him as a weapon against Apocalypse. Cable is probably the most popular character from X-Force, which also has a movie in the works right now. Can we expect a Cable appearance in X-Men Apocalypse that will serve to introduce X-Force?
Well, I am psychic, you know.
Most fans are assuming that the famed storyline Age of Apocalypse will be the inspiration for X-Men Apocalypse. In that tale, Professor Xavier dies before even forming the X-Men, which leads to the creation of an alternate reality where Apocalypse rises to power and takes over the world. In a spin on the story from Days of Future Past, where mutant kind is enslaved, in Age of Apocalypse, it's humanity that's been overcome. Millions of humans are killed in this bleak reality where mutants now rule supreme.
The whole world's going to hell, you just going to sit there? Let's go.
And ironically enough, in this world, Magneto has taken on his old friend Xavier's mission of peace between mutant and man, even forming his own version of the X-Men. Notably, the time-traveling fan-favorite character Bishop and the teleporter Blink both figure prominently in the story, and they also happen to be making their big screen debuts in Days of Future Past. Clearly, the seeds of X-Men Apocalypse will be planted in Days, which will involve time travel and alternate timelines. Perhaps the Age of Apocalypse will be inadvertently created in the wake of the X-Men's latest movie exploits. So where is this all going? We'll have a better idea when Days of Future Past hits in May of 2014, and then X-Men Apocalypse follows in 2016. But until then, remember, only the strongest will survive.